And so when you are teaching this essence of connecting to spiritual or becoming, living off the three brains and knowing which one layer of consciousness you're operating from, what's the first step you lead people to start even acknowledging that, you know what, maybe there is something out there that's greater than myself that's helping me on this path?
Yeah, well, I think the first step is just, the first step really is just about helping people to understand how they have created these mental constructs, or where these mental constructs come from about who they are as an identity, their fictional identity, their name, their vocation, their religion, their creed, their race, their nationality, etc., and all this fictional identity they've been given as a child before the age of 1, and now they've been taught to defend that fictional identity, and for a lot of people, defend it to the point of death, right? And it's really just it's a collection of beliefs, right? It's just a collection of mental constructs. None of that is accurate. But the next step is really then helping people to understand that actually, life is magical. It's just, when you really look at how life unfolds, and you look at nature and you look at the seasons and you look at how, just how everything is just magical, right? And it's really, it takes there is a process to get into that kind of thinking for sure. But everybody can admit one thing, and this is what I ask people. I say, look back at your life and look at some of the most challenging experiences of your life, some of the most painful experiences of your life, and then ask yourself, had that not happened, would you be now in this point right now of your life right now? If you look at the gifts that you're enjoying right now, a lot of those gifts came from that experience, right? So therefore, then there must be some kind of magical, connection between everything, right? And it's also then helping people to understand, if you look at, I like numbers, I like quantum physics, and I like, I like to marry facts to the mystical, right? So because because when you add both of them, a lot of people, most of us are being trained left brain, right? So it takes a while for people to get into the right brain. For those of us who have trained ourselves into our right brain thinking, it's easier for us to see the connections, the invisible connections. But it takes practice, right? We forget that we've actually practiced our way to that point in time. Other people are not so practiced in that way, although we all have that ability, because all of us have intuition and all of us are spiritual in nature, right? We all energy. So when you bring quantum physics into it and you talk about energy and you talk about molecules, atoms, electrons, etc., nobody can ever deny the fact that, everything we're looking at, although it appears solid, is 99.9% space, right? It's not there. It's because it's moving so quickly that it appears solid. And if you look at it under a microscope, it's not there. So, when you start bringing numbers and equations into it, like Einstein did, and you talk about, I always talk to people about the mathematical equation of them actually being born, and most people, they've never ever heard of that equation. But when you show them that equation, the mathematical numbers, and for them to actually be born right now in this time and space it's beyond a miracle. It actually shouldn't happen. It's like, the number is so big that it actually should not happen. And yet it still happens, and so when you start encouraging people and you put them in, I put people in an environment for 4 days and we take them through this process. And so by the time they get to day 4, they have a very, very different understanding of what it is to be a human being, especially what it is to be them in their body at this time. And they look at their past in a very different way, and they look at their present in a very different way, and then consequently they look at their future in a very different way. And it's just a beautiful journey, to help people to wake up to the essence of who they really are, and actually to understand this. And we come back to religion, to help them to understand what a debilitating conversation religion has been for them in their life in the past, especially if they heavily invested into a religion. It's very debilitating. It's very limiting. It does not give the soul wings.
Wow.
And that can be a very tough thing for a lot of people to swallow, because especially if they're very, very, if they profoundly religious, or deeply religious. Yeah. But I think a lot of people are changing their conversation around that, especially younger people, I think even religion has had to even religion has realized that it has to transform, and it's late to the party, but it is transforming, I think. Especially, you know, you've got new churches opening up, and you know, they have a very different way of talking about religion or talking about God. But it is a conversation that definitely needs to change, because there's so many people who are trapped in that conversation about being sinful, or about, you know, doing things wrong or making mistakes, etc., or being born a sinner and all that kind of stuff, you know. And that's so debilitating for the human spirit, you know, so debilitating and so constricting. And it causes so much pain. I mean, it's the cause of prostitution and sexual slavery, you know, is directly related back to the church's desire to ban sex, you know.
Wow. And you were speaking about, you know, showing people what it's like to be a human, right? Bringing them back to the essence of humanity and what that journey really is. And in your definition, what is that journey? Like, what is it? Because as you said a little bit earlier, each of us has our own soul's purpose, our own evolution, our own path. So how do you define it being a human being?
Well, I think it's something it's common for all human beings. It's the one commonality. It's just love, you know. It's love and kindness. It's you know, I tell people, you know, when you're resisting life, you're resisting yourself, and you're resisting nature, you're resisting God. So we have to look at areas where we resist life, and resistance creates persistence, right? So whatever you resist persists, right? And that you know, that phrase has been uttered by, you know, Ram Dass and Wayne Dyer and Louise Hay and many other people for many years. But it's very, very true. When you resist something, it persists. You know, a very simple exercise to demonstrate that is you just lean against the wall. You know, if you keep leaning against that wall, the walls are going to keep leaning against you, right? Nothing's going to change. You have to actually take your hand off the wall and then move in a different direction. And so we designed to live in flow, right? And just to flow with life. And that means you have to trust life. Life knows what she's doing. You know, God knows what he's doing. God knows what she's doing, whatever you want to call it. Life knows what she's doing. The universe knows what she's doing. It's been around for how long, right? I mean, life has been unfolding for millennia. And, you know, for a human being, and that's how powerful the ego is, right? For human beings to think, you know, oh, you know what? I know better than life, right? I know better. That is so, just so infantile, right? And so it really comes back down to love and kindness. How much can you love yourself? How much more can you love yourself? Like right now, today, how many more little activities can you perform today that shows kindness to yourself? How friendly are you with yourself? How kind are you to yourself? Doing little acts of kindness for yourself, treating yourself nicely. That means consequently, you will treat other people nicely. If you practice that, the more you practice that, the easier it is to resist other people. The easier it is to resist less around you, right? Resist other people less, resist life less, because now you're resisting yourself less. And then, so what happens is you're now getting into a flow state. And that's what life is. Life flows naturally. Look, the moon always comes up at nighttime somewhere. The sun always comes up in the morning somewhere, right? You know, spring always follows winter, right? And then, you know, what follows spring is summer, and what follows summer is fall, right? It always happens that way. Gravity is existent all the time, 100% of the time. Gravity is a law. It's a universal law. There's universal laws. And when we can get into universal laws and really flow with universal law, it comes down to cause and effect. Are you at cause or are you at effect? And really the fastest way to become cause in your life is to fall in love with yourself and life and everything around you, including your challenges, including the problems that you don't like, including the surprises that you're not expecting, and recognize that when they show up, you say, this is an opportunity to learn something, to grow, to add value, to go deeper, to release something, to heal something, because everything is happening for a reason. And so then that makes life more, it makes it fun, right? It makes it enjoyable, because now the next challenge, it shows up and says, okay, great. What am I going to learn here? How am I going to profit from this experience? And how can I help other people profit from my education during this experience, right? It changes everything.